Let's Take This Outside with Marianne Iveson, the podcast where she speaks to athletes, outdoor professionals, and scientists about why they connect with nature.
Mylène Paquette is the first person from the American continent to row solo across the North Atlantic and has crossed the Atlantic Ocean twice in a rowboat. She is also the author of her French language book, Dépasser. For her efforts, Mylène was awarded the Medal of Honor by the National Assembly of Quebec, as well as the Meritorious Service Cross by the Governor General. And she was named an Explorer in Residence at the Royal Canadian Geographical Society in May of 2018. Please welcome Mylène Paquette. Mylène, welcome to Let's Take This Outside. I've been wanting to chat with you for so long, and we finally did this.
Thank you so much.
I know that you're in the middle of a move and things are chaotic. So the fact that you're like, yes, I will do a podcast interview means a lot to me. So thank you.
It's a real pleasure for me. Thank you so much.
I have to say that you were very highly recommended from other Royal Canadian Geographical Society explorers in residence. I believe Jill Heinerth recommended you, another water baby, I would say, and a few others. But that's a very cool, exclusive club that you're a part of.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that you think about me to give an interview to your podcast and to reach other people in Canada. It's really cool for me. Thank you very much.
Mylène, I know that you're in Montreal right now, but where did you grow up?
I grew up in Montreal. Actually, I come from Montréal Nord. It's a little suburb in the north of Montreal. It's on the island. And I grew up in a family who loves outdoor activities. So I never thought I was good at sports. I was just thinking, okay, we go outside for a little hike or for camping or for fishing or alpine skiing. My father and my mother were really much into alpine skiing during winters, and we were always outside. But yeah, I wasn't good at sports, and this is it. Yeah, I grew up in a normal family.
It's very funny that you say that you weren't super athletic growing up and what your life turned into. So I find that very ironic. And I feel like you're underselling yourself. You're like, oh, I just did some hiking and alpine skiing and I just did like a little bit, but I'm sure that you would lap most kids is my guess.
No. I was skinny and I was not good at any sports, and I was asthmatic too. So always with my Ventolin, I don't know if it's the name in English, but my little
your puffer
pump, and always achoo, always sneezing all the time in nature. And no, I was like, the movie The Goonies. Do you remember that movie? Yeah. I was the one with the pump, always late with not glasses, but when I was a teenager, yeah. But no.
Is that why you ended up on the water? Because there's nothing to make you asthmatic on the water?
Maybe we can think so. But after my high school degree, I went to Cégep in Quebec. There's a college degree. So it's kind of college after high school. And I left school because I didn't really recognize myself in different topics and areas I was studying in. So I worked as a patient care attendant for 10 years. And I was always like, thinking, what should I do in my life? What should I do for a living? And I was doing it just while waiting, to discover what I would do in life. So I was good as a patient care attendant with sick kids. I was good. I was in love with the kids I was working with and my colleagues and the hospital I was working for. But it wasn't meant for me because I was not really good in every kind of situation, like with blood and with big injuries in emergency room or big emotions. I was not good at it. So I was thinking like maybe there's something else for me. And I went back to school in communication it was the field was named communication in politics because I was not having the good notes for just getting in communication. So I ended up in that program. And finally, I discovered about ocean rowing and it just changed my life. Yeah.
When was the first time you stepped foot in a boat? It's not just rowing, it's like ocean rowing. When was the first time? Do you remember?
The first time I laid my eyes on that project, it was on the internet. And I discovered about a woman who rowed across the North Atlantic Ocean. She was a French woman. And at that very moment, it was like a oh moment, but I was thinking in my head, oh, no, 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 no. This is not what I wanted to do. I was like scared, even maybe frustrated because I wanted at that period of my life, I just discovered about sailing and I was dreaming about sailing a sailboat. So I was doing research about women, sailboat, first premiere women, what kind of project should I do on a sailboat? And I just laid my eyes on an ocean rowing boat and I was like, oh no, no, that's not that. And then I double click and on YouTube challenge and I saw different videos about English rowers. And when I realized what it was all about to row across an ocean, I was hooked on that project. I always say that it's like if the project chooses me instead of me choosing the project. And I think it brought to me so much answers I was looking for in my life. I was living like kind of emergency of living because I was working with sick patients in oncology and I lost a lot of patients. So I was like living an emergency to live and to go forward and to do something immersive and really challenging and something absolute, something big. So I was in good health, in good shape. And I was thinking like maybe I can do something in my life. And I was always asking myself, what can I do to encourage my patients? What can I do to encourage them? And all at once, is there nothing I can do to encourage my patients in orthopedic surgery, and I was going everywhere in the hospital. I was known by the patients. So I was thinking like, I was trying to find stories to encourage them, to give them power, to empower them and to make them believe they can heal and they can get better. So I was so much afraid of water. So when I discovered about ocean rowing and I discovered that it was not possible to row across an ocean without diving underneath the boat to wash the hull of the boat, at the very beginning, I said, no, it's not meant for me. But afterwards, when I discovered that it could bring a story to my patient and it could encourage my patients to go in their fears, besides to run away when they face fears. So all this, in French, we say put the table. I don't know if it's an expression we can translate in English, but everything in my life pointed in that direction. And when I discovered about ocean rowing, it was a big answer to what I was looking for since several years, not to say a decade.
It's wild that you're watching some YouTube videos and it was just calling your name, and that you said you did some canoeing and stuff but like it's not like you were a big sailor. It's not like you were like, yep, that's what I want to do. It's wild how we can trust our gut and our instincts, right?
Yeah, exactly. I always say the project chooses me, but it was really like if it's something in my soul that was saying to me like, let's go, this is where you should go, and believe it or not, you're going to succeed doing so. So it was like a gut feeling,
the gut feeling. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. So I want to know kind of more technically, ocean rowing is, so what kind of boats are you working with? And what kind of skills do you have to learn? Because that is so far beyond my scope of knowledge.
So at the very beginning, I was looking for boats and I discovered it was so expensive. There's a lot of boats in Antigua in the Caribbean because a lot of racers finish the race there and then they don't have enough money to bring them boats in UK. So it's a sport really well known in UK, in Ireland, and even in France. So at the very beginning, I knew right from the beginning that I needed to learn how to navigate, how to move a boat on the water, how to understand water moves and fluidity of water, winds, weather. So at the very beginning, I wanted to go solo, but my mother suggested me to go with other people. So I rowed across the ocean with 5 guys. And it was a really good idea to train myself to feel alone on the boat, to go with 5 people and 5 guys from UK as well, especially. And it learned me so much. And afterwards, I tried to find money to purchase the boat. And then I had to understand that I learned not just to navigate, but to raise money, to do conference, to talk about my project, to talk with different media, how to say the things that important, like to raise money, to find sponsors and everything. So yes, I needed to learn to navigate and to prepare the boat and technical aspect, but as well as electricity, health aspect to heal me if I get sick or if I have some injury during the crossing. So that's a lot of things to understand, but at the very to learn lot of things to learn. But at the very beginning, I was reading books about it, and I was trying to contact people who succeeded their crossing. And since the very beginning, I was thinking like, okay, I'm alone in that project, and really fast, I had so much attention, and people tried to help me with that project. So some of my friends told me, I'm there if you need me. So really quick in the project, people were helping me. So I developed a land team really quickly. And yeah, so I learned out of those people, but I learned with those people as well.
You've crossed the Atlantic twice. How far is that? Just to give us an idea.
So to give you an idea, I think the South Atlantic Ocean is always in the North Hemisphere, but it's the Route des Alizés. So it's the, oh my God, I don't know the name in English, but it's the easiest part of the North Atlantic Ocean.
Easiest? I'm putting in air quotes, easiest part. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it was from Morocco to Barbados for 58 days with 500 people. So we were rowing 3x3, 2 hours on, 2 hours off, and like this for 58 days. And that first crossing I learned a lot of things out of this, but it was only to prepare myself to do the North Atlantic Ocean, the Route du Nord, the one with from America to Europe. So that first crossing, I wasn't in charge of a lot of things on the boat because we were 6. There was a captain, a second, and everyone has some tasks to do during the crossing. And it was quite interesting, but it was a social challenge, maybe social.
Right, because you're stuck in a boat with 5 other people. That's like
know.
Survivor.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah.
And it's not always easy. Yeah. And then afterwards, I prepared myself, and then I did the North. And I did also another crossing on a sailboat and another crossing like from Montreal to Magdalen Island. So I did like 4 adventures at the top. And the second adventure I did was in 2011 from Montreal to Magdalen Island. And during that crossing, I was sleeping in my boat, but in different marinas, in different ports to go to Magdalen. So I was dealing with the weather, the currents, the St. Lawrence River. It's so difficult to navigate on that river. It's one of the most difficult river to navigate in the world. So I learned a lot to feel alone, but to be accompanied by other people who doesn't really know you, doesn't really know the boat. So to deal with different people and to navigate alone in that on that river, it was really helpful for my confidence, to develop my confidence. And sorry, what was your question again?
I think I originally asked, but you were answering quite other questions I did have. Like, how far is it? Like kilometers wise?
How far? So it was 5,000 kilometers in the south and the north as well. So just a little bit less in the south, the southeast route that I did, like maybe 2,600 nautical mile, and probably the north is 2,700 nautical mile. Yeah.
And the solo one was in the north, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
You've kind of already answered this, but doing it solo, you did it, if I heard you correctly, is to inspire your patients and inspire others. That was your main driving force to cross the Atlantic Ocean in a boat by yourself.
Yeah, well, it was not my main, because I wanted to live that adventure. It was for me at the very beginning, but for me wasn't enough. So the ego, it wasn't enough to live it only for me. Because if it was only for me, I would just do my things and not to communicate with anyone. So I would not need to do it. But when I discovered that could encourage my patient, it was one of my strongest motivation. And afterwards, when I saw on the ocean so many plastic trash in 2010, when I rode across the ocean for the first time, I was thinking like, oh my God, it's awful. So maybe I can do some communication about environmental problems of the ocean. So I worked with a university in Rimouski. So I had some blogs that I could like share during my crossing. And it was really important to me to share those information about ocean, because my crossing would be like the ocean reaching the people, like right from the ocean. The ocean can reach the people. They're on their phones and they're on their computers, and they can learn about ocean while they follow me. So that was another motivation as well. And one of the other motivation that I had, it was to feel what it was to be alone, to have that connection with nature, connection with the stars, connections with the land team, to create something big, to create something all by myself, but with my land team as well. And to better connect with myself as well, to dive in the ocean. It was the thing that I feared the most. And today I can say that it's the thing that was the most difficult thing to do in my life, to jump right in the middle of the ocean, not knowing if something was awaiting me underneath the boat. So
it's funny that you say that, because one of the sayings that I have in my podcast, and the reason I do it, is how do we connect to nature? How do we connect to each other? And how do we connect to ourselves?
oh,
Right?
That's cool. Yeah.
Right. So you're totally, we're in the same wavelength, 100%.
Let's Take This Outside now has a newsletter. Keep up to date with outdoor news, events, and great discount codes and deals from our partners. Sign up today at letstakethisoutside.ca.
I'm wondering how you prepare for a trip like that, other than, like the medical stuff and getting used to it and learning about tides and waves and the way water works. But physically, that is incredibly demanding. How?
Well, I always say to the people what I got, what some ocean rower told me before I got out. I was doing a lot of training somehow in the years before, and some ocean rowers I know in UK was rating me like, okay, Mylène, stop training. The most important thing is to know the boat, is to know what to do if fire starts in the boat. It's to know how to heal yourself, how to repair the boat, So I put it aside a little bit, because the training, the most important part of the training, it was like psychological training, technical training, and I could not feed myself normally in the 2 years before my crossing. At some point, I was having like 500 calories a day, because I was like not rich at all. I was putting all my money in my project, and some of the people I know was like thinking like, oh my God, she's skinny and she won't get across the ocean like this. So I could not eat as I wanted to eat before my crossing. So one of the trainer who was helping me from France, because nobody wanted to help me in Quebec, I was saying me like, if you don't eat like 1,500 calories today, you don't train. So yeah, it was very difficult because nobody helped me financially. I was in debt before to go. Some people helped me. Some people, how do we say, borrow me money?
Borrow,
but
yeah.
I get them back the money after the crossing. So some people helped me like that, but it was so difficult financially. So I could not train myself as I would like to train.
But you did it.
Yeah, I did it. Yeah. I'm always asking myself, like, how many days would it take me if I would train like for years before? Maybe 2 weeks, I would be better. Like from 1 week, 2 weeks, I would be faster or something like that. But the physical part, the most difficult part of the crossing was not to row 12 hours a day or 10 hours a day, or the days I was rowing 18 hours just to escape from a bad weather system. I did it so like a couple of times, but the most difficult part was not to row. It was to stay inside the cabin and to wait to row. So the body is not made to be confined in a small cabin with difficulty, to move on the cabin, some pain on the elbows, the knees. Some parts of the body was like it was difficult to be strapped in the cabin and to deal with bad weather, to deal with hurricanes, to be strapped and to have my helmet on all day. So those moments were much more difficult than to row 12 hours.
My next question was, what were the biggest challenges on your solo trip? You kind of answered the, being stuck in the cabin, but I'm thinking weather, I'm thinking, mental capacity, I'm thinking, what were the biggest challenges?
The biggest challenge was not to row as much as I wanted and to know that everyone was watching me. The media were talking about me. And when the people were clicking on my website was saying like, oh my God, but she's rowing like in a circle. She's not going anywhere. Because of weather, people did not understand. So the ego part was really difficult. Like you talk about your project and your project doesn't go anywhere. So every week you have to talk with different media and to say, yeah, believe me, in 1 week, it's going to be okay. It's going to be over. That bad weather system was going to be over. I can row. And the people, I think the public were thinking that I can row in 12-meter wave. They were thinking like, oh no, she can row different. After 3-meter wave, it's super dangerous to row. It's really impressive. After 2.5 meters, you don't want to be outside. You want to strap yourself in the cabin and you just want that to finish. You just want to wait till it's over to row again. So I think I was dealing with that frustration because some of the rower I know were not having those bad conditions like I had in 2013. So to deal with that and to learn that it's not personal, the ocean has nothing personal against me. It's not personal. It's just the weather and you're just not at the right position now. So the bad weather is against you, but it's not about you. It's just about the conditions. So it was really difficult to deal with that emotionally and to say like, okay, it's not personal. It's the ocean. That's it. And then, but when you are strapped in your cabin, like for so long, it's difficult not to take it personal, not to have some thoughts about like, why me? Why the other rowers did it in 70 days and then I'm still here after 70 days or 65 days, or some rower did it in 123 days or 27, but how come I'm going to be the longest row on the North Atlantic Ocean? I worked so hard to be here and then I can't row. So that was the main challenge of the crossing, not to be able to row because of bad weather condition. I think I faced 29 different bad weather conditions.
It's funny you say that, and it's so much easier to be able to look at it afterwards. But I just kind of put a post up on Instagram talking about you can't like dominate the mountains. You can't dominate the ocean, right? You just have to work within your own parameters. And for me, it's the luck that you get. What are the mountains going to give you today? In your case, what's the ocean going to give you today? Sometimes it's straight up just what is the luck and how prepared can you be, right?
Yeah. And sometimes the way you look at the ocean and the way you interact, I cannot say interact, but how I was seeing the ocean, I was saying like, oh, today the ocean is beautiful. I was feeling great. It was like projection. I was projecting my inner feelings to the ocean. And sometimes I was thinking like, oh, the ocean, she's so ugly today. It's difficult. And I was whining all the time and it was challenging in my mind. So I think it was a good feedback. The ocean was a feedback to my inner perceptions and my emotions as well.
You've captured your journey in a few ways with a book, Beyond the Horizon, a theater play. A book totally makes sense, but like the theater play, like I think that's so cool. Like how do these creative works come to you after, you complete a journey like this?
Yeah, well, it ended up to be like an idea from somebody else. At the very beginning, I wanted to do a documentary on stage instead of doing a theater. And then there's well-known writer, Brian Perrault, who wrote Amos d'Aragon. It's a book in French, like I think they sold like millions of books. So Brian Perrault is a director of a theater in Shawinigan in Quebec. And he saw me when I went to that theater to see a play about Frédéric Dion, who did the Antarctic with kite surf and everything. So I went to see that play, and then he saw me and he said, "Okay, you're the next one." And then he developed with me. We wrote the play, and there was a comedian doing my role. It was amazing to see that process. I really liked it. And we did it was ideas from elsewhere, like Maestro Nagano, who was the maestro from the orchestra in Montreal, the OSM. So what is the OSM? So it's Orchestre de Montréal. Sorry, the OSM, Orchestre Symphonique de Montréal. So Symphonic Orchestra of Montreal. And he said, like, we want to do a theater show with the whole orchestra. So we did it only once, and it was in Radio-Canada, so CBC radio, but in French, all over the country. So it was really impressive to see all those musicians on stage as well to play my crossing. It was really amazing. So all those ideas, it was inspired by my crossing, but it was ideas from others. I never called the Maestro Nagano to say, hey, would you do that? You know?
You inspired others. Yeah.
Yeah, I inspired others. Yeah, exactly. And some people, you know, there's a teacher in a university who gives a course about emotional intelligence, and it's all about my crossing. So
cool.
I gave different interview, and it's like a 3 credit course, and it's all about my crossing. So sometimes I just realize that maybe there's a lot of things that I don't know that I inspired, but you know, when you do something public, it's not yours afterwards. It's just like you gave it to the public. So it's the public to deal or to paint or to, you know, to do whatever they want because it's in the public eye now.
What does your life look like now? You know, you have 2 kids, you've taken on motherhood, you've taken on a totally other new expedition of that. What does that life look like now? And do you have any more expeditions planned, or is motherhood and just sinking into that kind of your life at the moment?
Well, I like to imagine myself changing a project every decade. So for my 30s, at the very moment I turned 30, the night of my birthday, I said to my friends, I'm going to row across the ocean. And I gave birth at 40 years old. So 40 and 43.
Amazing.
So probably at my 50s, it's going to be a new project. But I'm dreaming about the sailboat, but much more to see the coldness and the Arctic. So I'm dreaming about the Arctic. And maybe my kids will grow up and come with me and having a family project or something like this. But not something like really difficult with storms and everything because kids are there. But yes, I'm dreaming about seeing some people. How do the people live in the Arctic as well? I went to the Arctic 3 times and it was really amazing. I fell in love with those people who was living there. So just to share those encounters with my kids to show them the whole country, you know, the north of Canada, that would be wonderful to share that with my kids.
I have a feeling that we still have a lot of journeys and expeditions coming from you. So I'm looking forward to that. You have a podcast as well, right? Tell me what it's called. I know it's in French, but I would love to share it anyway.
Yeah, so it's Méandre, les dessous d'une traversée. So in English, it would be meanders.
Meander, okay.
Under of the crossing. So because my land team recorded themselves during the crossing in different meetings because they were getting across so many stresses and they were not telling me everything.
Oh,
so
cool.
They were thinking like, oh my God, how can we tell them the truth about what happened during the crossing? Maybe we can record ourselves. So it's Jean-Pierre, the son of my mentor, who were our project manager, putting every people online, and he were recording those moments. And they were having now we are working on the 3rd episode, and it's about the Garde Côtière Canadienne, so the Coast Guard in Canada. So the Coast Guard were calling my land team to say, okay, it's not possible. She's never going to reach France. When is it? The time has passed by and then we can go pick her up. We are like 30 miles away from that structure and we can go to tank there in a helicopter and we can go pick her up and blah, blah, blah. So they were dealing with the Coast Guard. And so they record themselves talking with the Coast Guard. So we have all those tapes and it's all things we never shared. We never talked about because I was thinking, I don't want to talk about Coast Guards just in a conference like this, because for the little moments I was talking about that, people were saying like, oh my God, they didn't believe you. Their job is not to believe to people who's doing different. their job is to take care of people and to go pick them up if it turns wrong. So I never wanted to give them bad publicity, and I wanted to talk about it in a good way. So I was waiting to talk about those things. And there's so many things I never talked about as well. Like the insurance company, they said, no, she's not insured anymore because it's too dangerous what she's doing right now. So my land team never called me to say, hey, by the way, your boat is not
You have
insured.
no insurance.
But now you don't have any more insurance. So they never called me to say that. But my lawyer, my land team, they got through all those crises. And all those moments has been taped. It's 52 hours of interviews, my land team together. And sometimes I'm on the call, sometimes I'm not. So it's just to promote the fact that it's a team effort. And I'm always up front, talking about my crossing. I give conference, like 60 to 70 conference every year. And I work in different companies and, congress and, conferences. And I talk about the way I see my crossing, but I really wanted the people to hear my land team talking about the crossing. And maybe the people don't recognize themselves in the rower, but maybe they would recognize themselves in different people around me.
That's so cool.
And I wanted to put my team in front. Yeah. So that project is really important to me. Yeah. But it's really expensive and it's really long to record those moments. It's like a documentary finally.
I think that's so cool. When's that coming out?
The first episode are already in line. It's named Consolidation. The second one is Doute, so doubt about the crossing. And the third one, what's the name again? I don't remember the name, but...
Wonderful. I will link that in the show notes. No problem.
Yeah, on my website or on my Instagram page, you can have the link for the podcast. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. I can't wait to get this episode out. So inspiring, and looking forward to hearing your podcast too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. For more Let's Take This Outside, go to letstakethisoutside.ca.
Produced and distributed by the Sound Off Media Company.